I actually made this video last night after watching Shepard Smith tell everybody to get flu shots. Because as more and more facts came out throughout the day yesterday, I was just getting more and more mad. And I'll get into why I was getting more and more mad in a minute. But I made the video and I was like, no, I don't need to put that bullshit up. Nobody gives a fuck. And really, I don't care that nobody gives a fuck, but it was stupid. But more and more has come out today, and I think I am really finding out how many idiots are really out there. So let's talk about this. I need to relight this. I'm going to need this. Let's go over the facts. Guy feels sick. Goes to the hospital. Hospital says, "You're sick. Here's some meds. Go home." Guy goes home. For 4 days, he's at home, getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Goes back to the hospital. Hospital says, that's weird. Leaves him in a room for however long, with however many people in it, in the hospital. Then they say, "Oh shit, you've got Ebola. We need to quarantine you." So they do. 2 nurses that were in contact with him got Ebola because they were wearing too much protective clothing. You know, when you got to pull off, 3 sets of gloves and the shit snaps back at you, you're better off wearing the 1 layer. We find out later that after the hospital said, "Oh, we totally had Ebola training in the summer. Everybody had it. Everybody knew what to do for Ebola." Now we've got 2 other nurses that have come out publicly and said, "No, we didn't. We didn't have that fucking training. That shit you could go to it if you wanted to. It wasn't mandatory." And oh yeah, when we found out this dude had Ebola, we called our, person in charge of that shit, and that person told me on the fucking phone, "I have no idea what the treatment for Ebola is. Let me get back to you." And he never got back to her. Oh wait, let's get back to what I was first talking about. So this second nurse that got Ebola, she flew. Now the original reports, and there's still some news articles out there even today that are stating it as such, developed symptoms after she flew. Well, when you read that, you really shouldn't be freaked out that she flew. Not at all, right? Well, hold on. The CDC says that if you have a temperature of 100.4, that is their threshold right now. We'll get to that in a minute. That temperature is their threshold for saying, whoa, you might have Ebola. Anything below 100.4, and you're good. So me, I have not been in contact with anybody that we even think might have Ebola. If I have a temperature of 100.3 or below, I'm good. Well, fuck it, even if I've got a temperature of a goddamn 102, nobody's going to think I have Ebola. This woman, I'm going to call her a woman and not use the term I'd like to use. This woman had a temperature of 99.5 because they were self-monitoring. Everybody that was in there was self-monitoring. 99.5. She called the CDC throughout the day, telling them that she wanted to fly. She wanted to go back home. Well, before her flight, she called again. Still got a temperature of 99.5. The person she's talking to on the phone at the CDC, guess what they had to do? They had to go to the CDC's public fucking webpage to determine what the goddamn symptoms for Ebola are. And the woman she was talking to on the phone that looked this shit up at the CDC, that looked at the CDC's fucking webpage, said, "Oh, you're good. Yeah, your temperature's only 99.5. You're totally fine. Go ahead and fly." So she flew. The plane made 5 more flights after she got off. Her temperature never went away. Her temperature continued to increase as her symptoms continued to increase. And she has Ebola. So the question is, when did it become Ebola? Because from what I understand, it can take up to 21 days for symptoms to show. And once symptoms show is when it becomes transmittable. So was it transmittable while she was on the flight? Well, her temperature was only 99.5. And the CDC says 100.4 is when you have Ebola. Oh, wait. After the director for the CDC fucking apologized for the fuck up of the CDC telling her she could fly because she fucking shouldn't have, now they're going to revamp that fucking temperature degree and where they say the inception is for Ebola. I wonder what fucking temperature they're going to pick. Here's where I get really mad. Because yes, I'm mad at the nurse, the medical professional who had direct contact with a man dying of Ebola who thought it would be a good idea to fucking fly. She shouldn't have had to call the CDC. There should have been no fucking reason. She should have been intelligent enough to know, well, yeah, anybody can have a temperature that high, and it's not even really a temperature, right? Because our body temperature fluctuates. But I've had it for hours, and it hasn't gone away, and it hasn't fluctuated, and I know that I have a high risk of having contracted Ebola, no matter that I was wearing all of my protective gear. She should have fucking known not to fly. Herself. It's insane to me. But every single fucking person that came in contact with that fucking dude at that hospital should have been fucking quarantined for the 21 fucking days. There's no reason not to, and every reason to. The reason why I'm really mad is because when I talk about this, or I post it on Facebook, or wherever, I get the responses of, stop fear-mongering. It's just Ebola. It's not even that transmittable. It's not a big deal. Who cares? Well, I'm not fear-mongering. I'm not running around the street yelling, we're all going to die of Ebola. I'm not staying shut in my house and wearing a respirator and wearing gloves and a fucking full goddamn hazmat suit. I'm not doing that. I'm not telling other people they shouldn't go outside or whatever. I'm not part of the media elements that are doing that, that are using this as headlines and fodder for getting people amped up over nothing. No, I'm not going to use that word, over something. That's not what I'm doing. Because where I get confused in the media that's covering this is it seems like there's two completely separate sides. There's the side that is doing the fear-mongering and ranting and raving like fucking lunatics and trying to scare everybody. And then I have the other side that is reporting, well, she didn't develop symptoms until Wednesday, and she flew on Monday, completely glossing over the temperature that she had, or the fact that now the CDC is going to revamp their temperature inception for Ebola. And it's not a big deal. Don't worry about it. Here in America, with our state-of-the-art medical system, and we know what the fuck we're doing, we're good to go. There's no reason to fucking worry. There's no middle ground. There's no middle ground of somebody saying, are you fucking serious? This bitch flew? Really? Nobody's doing that. Nobody's saying, are you fucking serious? This fucking hospital didn't know what to fucking do with the guy and let him sit in a room with other people? Are you fucking serious? That's what I'm pissed about. Who's holding who accountable here? When will this be taken seriously? And by seriously, I don't mean shut everything down. That's not what I'm saying. But holy fuck, CDC, how did somebody that works for you have to go to your fucking public webpage to look up an answer for this chick who's probably a pretty big deal, having dealt with the one dude that we fucking have with it here in our country? Maybe somebody of more importance and smarts in the CDC ladder of personnel should have been on the ball with all of those people. I'm not fear-mongering. I'm stating facts and I'm asking, what the fuck are we doing? You know, you have kids being pulled out of school. You have parents having the school call them about something wrong with their child and having to have their doctor call the school and say, no, the kid doesn't have fucking Ebola. Stop it. Because, not because of fear-mongering, not because people are going crazy over nothing, but because our own CDC can't even handle the one fucking case we have correctly. Because medical professionals that do this for a living can't make sane judgment calls. Here's what the airline did. As soon as the airline found out what the fuck happened, the airline was like, all right, fuck that. Pull that bitch to the curb. Let's wash it 3 goddamn times. Every single person that works for us that was involved in that fucking flight and all the flights following, you're on fucking 21 days paid leave. Go fucking home and don't leave. Yeah. Way to go. That's the right way to fucking handle it. I'd be even happier if instead, and I know they don't need to do this, but I was talking about this earlier, I'd be even happier if they took that fucking plane out into a deserted area and blew it up, just so nobody would ever have to fly on it. I get it. I get it that it's not transmittable after so long a period of time. I understand. But it would just be even cooler of that airline to do that, you know? Because they've already handled it very professionally. Better than the CDC has. So stop calling it fear-mongering when somebody's asking questions that make sense. Stop listening to idiots that don't have the full picture. You know, the main reasons why nobody thinks Ebola is a big deal here in the U.S. is because, first off, it has a transmission factor of basically 2 people. So if one person catches it, the average is 1.5 to 2 people it will be transmitted to. That's it. You know, it's only transmittable while you're sick. And when you're sick, you're normally not traveling, right? So it's not very easily transmittable. And in West Africa, they think the majority of people that have caught it have been from handling the dead bodies incorrectly, because it's transmittable for like up to 7 days after the body dies, depending on what fluids we're talking about. So here in the United States, not a big deal. But let's talk about that transmission factor again. We had one guy that had it, and how many people caught it? 2. So it's average. It's doing its job. It's surviving. So we didn't stop this like everybody said the United States would. And there are other people that are saying, well, what's the big deal? You know, maybe 20 people are going to catch it within the next month. Maybe 50 is the max. And by then we'll have gotten our shit together and stopped it, and we're good to go. 50 people. Whoop, who the fuck cares? Well, that's an extra 49 people that shouldn't have caught it and can potentially die because a hospital and the Centers for Disease Control fucked up. That's what I'm concerned with. I agree with you that it's not going to become an epidemic. I agree with you that it's not going to kill 70% of our population. I don't think it's a government cover-up. But I'm concerned with the fuck-ups that have been going on. And these are the ones that we know about. I work for the government. These are the fuck-ups that we know about publicly. It's not fear-mongering if you're asking the right questions. Rant over.